It kind of dovetails with my questions here about the Rosebud Hospital. I indicated that CMS is intending to terminate the hospital provider agreement effective March 16. And I mentioned some of the issues, allegations concerning sanitary conditions, instances of drug theft, lack of infection control measures, clearly a fundamental lack of oversight within the hospital. So the question to you this morning is, I mean, I suppose we could talk about how we got here, but that's not our problem. What we really need to know is that there is a plan going forward. How does the agency intend to address this situation, and what management reforms or changes are being put in place as we go forward? Because I think we would all agree that this is simply not tolerable. It's not acceptable. If CMS does terminate, you've got individuals that are going to have to travel long distances to get urgent care that they would have received. This is not a tolerable situation. What are you doing?
Thank you, Senator, and I certainly agree, and I know that the team at IHS does as well. This is simply not tolerable. It's unacceptable. I do want to give you an update and then segue into what we are doing to address it. We did receive that notice from CMS with a potential termination date of March 16th. At IHS, we requested an extension on that date, which CMS has now granted. We requested an extension to be able to work with CMS collaboratively on what's called a Systems Improvement Agreement. And this type of agreement is different than the normal corrective action plans that are developed when you get these type of notices from CMS, because they address systemic root-based causes for how the issues developed. And they are very specific types of agreements that have, as I know was mentioned earlier in this hearing, measurable outcomes and timelines from when they will be addressed. So this agreement will address issues such as staffing, housing, and quality and compliance, and creating a culture of accountability and compliance and leadership, even leadership skills and issues with the governing board. So as we speak, we are working very closely with CMS on developing such an agreement. It will involve a major commitment of time and resources and a new sense of leadership, I think, out at Rosebud Hospital, but that is our plan to address it.
So you sound relatively certain that that the hospital provider agreement will not be terminated, that services will still continue as you are working through these issues. Is that correct?
Yes, so just to be very clear, CMS has responded in writing. We're happy to give to any members of the committee that we have an extension until May 16th to work, a provisional period to work on the Systems Improvement Agreement. And in the letter from CMS, the agreement actually has to be entered into by April 29th, because if we're have not entered into the agreement by that point, there's like a 10-day notification period. So that is the extension we have been granted. And of course, I do want to make clear, it's not only in the purview of IHS. CMS has to approve the agreement, and that would be, part of their regulatory duties. But we are heartened that they are at least talking to us and working closely with us on this agreement.
Well, then let me ask about another, because I understand that CMS has raised similar questions with regards to Pine Ridge Hospital, also in South Dakota, and they've also received a termination letter. Is this the same situation where you're able to work something out with CMS? So that's one question, but it really does beg the question as to whether or not we've got some just systemic failures within IHS to have Rosebud and also Pine Ridge in this situation. Are there others that are also in a similarly precarious situation?
Well, thank you, Senator. I guess what I'll say just as a general matter, we are committed to doing whatever it takes. This is not an option. We need to ensure that these hospitals are delivering quality care, and that is, I think, the top priority for all of us at the agency right now. But as you mentioned, I think there are systemic problems, not just at those hospitals, but throughout our system, things that we've talked about in terms of staffing and housing and one of the things we are working on also is establishing a system of quality across the agency. With respect to Pine Ridge specifically, we did actually receive 2 notices from CMS. One was on the hospital, one was on the emergency services. We did receive notice from CMS that with respect to the hospital that we had met the requirements. We are still waiting on the emergency department, but we are committed to doing whatever it takes to ensure that these hospitals are providing quality care.
Very, very discouraging, because again, you don't get these notices unless there has been a long buildup. And what that long buildup means is that these people have been left behind. Their health has potentially been compromised or put at risk, and again, it is just not acceptable.